Hey sis, welcome to the Sisterhood, Soul, and Strategy podcast, a space for women building businesses that feel as good as they look. I'm Steph, a small town girl from Wisconsin with big dreams to positively impact the world. This podcast is from the heart, where we share real conversations about building intentional businesses that thrive in every season. And the best part, we talk both soul and strategy, and we wrap it all up in sisterhood. Because let's be real, business is more fun in community. So no matter your age or stage of small business ownership, you stumbled upon this podcast for a reason. Now, let's get to the good stuff. Hey, it's Steph, and welcome back to a new show called the Sisterhood, Soul, and Strategy podcast. I'm so glad that you're here, whether you just stumbled upon this for the first time or maybe you were an avid listener of the Soul Driven with Steph podcast. Either way, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm excited to share the relaunch of what this podcast is all about and also a little behind the scenes of my life lately and why I decided to relaunch and rebrand the podcast. Sisterhood, Soul, and Strategy. This is a tagline that I really morphed and evolved into not just the Sister Circle community, but it also represents me and my personal brand as Stephanie Lee Ross, because that is what I'm all about. Sisterhood is the community building that I feel so called to do. And it's like, no matter where I go, this is just what I end up building is community. And most of the time it's for women, hence the sisterhood, the soul. I did a whole episode towards the end of my last podcast season about bringing back the soul into business and strategy, and how I believe wholeheartedly that you can't build a life or a business without consistently and continually tapping into your soul and your purpose and why you're here. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then, of course, I'm all about strategy. Naturally, I am a researcher and an educator. I love learning new things, testing them out, applying them to my life and my business, and then sharing them with the world. That is literally what I do with everything. So here we are. Welcome to the Sisterhood, Soul, and Strategy podcast. Let's dive in because I owe you a little update on my life, right? Like, I don't even think I've done a full welcome back to the Steph, who is now a new mom and a business owner and an author. And man, it has been a journey. When I launched my podcast initially, it was 2022, and I launched my podcast simultaneously as I was launching my real estate business. So it was the end of 2022, and at the time I was also still running my studio, Zen and Pow. Fast forward, 3.5 years later, I do not have that first business, Zen and Pow. I scaled my community, Small Business Sister Circle, which you're going to hear so much about now in this podcast. We're going to talk to a lot of these small business sisters, and we're going to talk about what we're seeing and what's going on in the business world. And I also grew my real estate business. Alongside of all of that, I grew a baby, my son, Valerie, who is now 15 months old and walking. And I also grew and birthed and launched a book. And with that book has come many new doors opened, many speaking opportunities, podcast opportunities, and also the expansion of Small Business Sister Circle into chapters. So at the beginning of this year, 2026, we launched our very first chapter outside of the lacrosse chapter that I created almost 5 years ago. And that is in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So, wow, what a journey it has been. When I launched this podcast, I was literally in my rock bottom. I was pivoting from doing something that I had done for almost a decade, and that was running my fitness and yoga studio, Zen and Pow. I was about to turn 30, And I was really untangling my identity as a fitness and yoga instructor and studio owner from my personal identity of who I was as a person. I was financially spiraling. I was in so much debt with that first business. And to be completely transparent, my reasoning for going into real estate was because I needed a way to pay my bills, needed to pay my rent. I needed to have some personal savings. I had nothing. Fast forward to where I am now, and while I am still paying for some of that business, my goal this year is to become debt-free. So I'm proclaiming that right now, completely debt-free, and to really step into this next evolution and identity of who I am. Because when I launched the podcast, I was just starting to pivot and experience that journey. And honestly, this podcast was the perfect format for me to share my evolution. I'm actually really glad that I documented it through a podcast, because now I can go back and listen and hear my raw emotions in those seasons. And sometimes I even share those episodes with people that are going through a big pivot themselves, because it just resonates. It just hits different hearing it from that version of me. And now I am a mom and an author and an entrepreneur of 2 thriving businesses, and I'm juggling all the things and wearing a lot of new hats and roles, as well as trying to rediscover who I am in this new season of motherhood. So many of the topics that I want to bring to this podcast and these conversations now encompass these new hats and roles that I wear. So I hope that wherever this is finding you, whether you're a mom or not, you're still going to resonate. Whether you're a business owner or not, you're still going to hopefully feel inspired to go do the thing that you want to do, because I'm going to share all of it with you, but we're going to wrap it in to the business strategy and the sisterhood by bringing on other guests that are female small business owners. And we are not going to sacrifice our soul along the way. And that has been something that I've actively tried to protect amidst these very full seasons of life and business. Is, at the end of the day, a question that I keep coming back to is, am I having fun? Because if I'm not enjoying the journey on any level, then it's really not worth it. And I'm not saying that every part of my life and business needs to be fun, but how can I make it more enjoyable? Even the hard parts, even the sucky parts, because that is how we get to just experience life even more. So something I've been leaning more and more into lately, and I've talked about it a lot on social media, is finding magic in the mundane. Because that is what life becomes sometimes, and that is what business becomes sometimes, is just going through the motions and being bored with where we're at, or just not finding the joy that we maybe originally once had in a routine or maybe a business. And so how can we infuse more joy and fun into those things? That's the soul piece. That, and also the subconscious nervous system work that I have been avidly working to untangle my worth and my identity from what I'm producing, as well as release a lot of the trauma and the experiences and the heaviness that I'm still holding on to years later from some of my business experiences. So we're going to talk about everything on this podcast. It's not that any topics are going to feel taboo, because I actually really want to talk about the topics that I don't think enough women or female entrepreneurs are talking about. And it is things like how to hold your next level, how to hold your big dreams and still believe them and still pursue them when you're not even close to them. I also want to talk about the hard parts and the difficult seasons of maybe losing friendships or losing clients. I want to talk about the challenges that you're facing as an entrepreneur who is trying to do it all yourself and wearing a million hats. What kind of support you need, what season of your life and your business are you in, which is what I wrote about in my book, Seasons of a Soulpreneur, because it's something that we don't talk enough about. We're constantly comparing ourselves to other people who we don't even know their story or journey, and we don't even know what their life is like behind the scenes. We don't know what kind of season they're in or storm that they are going through. These are the conversations that I want to bring to the podcast. And to be honest, I just need to get on the mic more with you guys because I'm finding in my everyday life, I have things to share. I have a lot of topics that I think are not talked about enough that I want to talk about. And for me, it's literally just finding the time to hit record, to get on the mic, and then blast it out to all of you. I'm trying my absolute best to show up for my next version of myself. So as this episode is airing, we are officially about to transition into a new year. If you're following the Chinese New Year, we are about to go into the year of the fire horse. And to me, that means positive momentum moving forward. But in order to do that, we actually had to let go of a lot of things that was no longer serving us. And that's where I want to meet you in this episode. Is like, hey, when I started the podcast 3 years ago, here's where I was at. Now, 3.5 years later, after shedding so many experiences and identities and limiting mindsets and beliefs and even people, here's where I'm at now. And this is what I foresee moving forward into the future of the direction that I want to go. Because it's not easy to continue to stay forward focused when there are always going to be people and places and limiting beliefs that are holding us back. So what I had to release to get to where I'm now is a lot. There's a lot of heavy experiences, and I didn't fully grasp how much I was still holding on to until my book came out last year. My book came out and I was so excited to have everyone read it, and so many people were sending me DMs and messages and posting about it and sharing about how the stories were landing and resonating with them. While I loved hearing that, it just brought all of those past experiences that I consciously thought I had moved on from to the surface. And it's almost like I had to experience them again. I had to revisit them again. And then on the podcast last summer, I actually recorded every single chapter in a podcast episode, which you can always go listen to. But I had to reread it again and again and again. And I want you to think about in your own life, where have some of the stories and the experiences that you've been holding on to actually been holding you back? I needed to release them, and the book was the perfect way to do that. And then I had to release them again and again in new layers, in new ways after the book came out, through the rest of last year. And then I started realizing that I consciously have released these things. What I haven't consciously released them is in my body, because the body holds on to past experiences, memories, traumas, anything that we have maybe already processed consciously or unconsciously, our body still holds on. And by the end of the year, I just felt not just heavy energetically, but I also was feeling physically heavy. I didn't feel like I looked like myself. I didn't feel like myself. And we can chalk that up to motherhood, right? I mean, going through pregnancy, having a baby, nursing a baby for 9 months, still trying to show up for my health and wellness. But something was off. And I couldn't even pinpoint what it was. I just knew that I had to do something different. I had to make a change in my health and wellness routine so that I could show up as the best version of myself that I know is there. I know it's possible. And it wasn't just about weight and losing weight. It was truly how I felt. So I made a lot of changes at the beginning of this new year in January to show up for myself. And so far, it has been one of the keys to showing up as myself. I feel better. I am just naturally losing weight by sticking to my health and wellness goals. So that was one piece that I needed to change and a way that I needed to show up. The next was approaching my business differently. I got to the end of January and I packed a lot into January that I'd put off over the holidays so that I could have a really relaxing holiday break. And I got to the end of January and I was just exhausted. Too many meetings, too much on my calendar, too much saying yes, not enough saying no. I actually don't have the capacity to do that. And that is something that I have actively tried to reassess and restructure my calendar every single week so that I feel good, I can show up for the things that I need to do, and that I also have time to fill up my cup at the end of the day. So knowing myself, knowing where I'm at, I've made a lot of changes to my calendar and how I say yes and how I structure my day and how I even show up on the weekends, because my weeks are packed full of work. And by the time I get to the weekend, I really want to rest, recuperate, prepare, and plan for the week ahead, do my meal planning, do my house cleaning, do my preparation for the work that I'm going to be doing that week, and absolutely spend as much time as possible with my family. And I also needed to reassess my schedule as far as taking time off during the week. So now I'm doing every other week. I'm taking Friday off to spend with Valerie and doing something fun. So everything has to shift and change for the season that we're in. And I'm coming full circle back to why I'm coming to this podcast, relaunching it, rebranding it, renaming it to fit me, my business, and the season of life and business that I'm in right now. And I'll just be honest, I am in a growing season. I am in an expansion season where I want to make sure this podcast is reaching the right people at the right time to help grow my community of Small Business Sister Circle, because I know that is my soul's purpose and mission, to show up and continue to bring women together, whether it's through this podcast, through our membership, through our annual summit, through our different offerings and trainings. My goal is to be that connection point and that small business sister, if you will, that is speaking truth to the real, raw, authentic things that we experience as business owners that most people are afraid to talk about. And the things that are seen and felt and experienced that you are not alone in. Because we are truly going through this collective shift in so many ways, whether it's life or business. And it's really easy during these kind of wild times to pull yourself back, to isolate yourself, to withdraw and go within. And I'm not saying that you don't need time to go within, because I'm a generator and I need lots of time to myself to be and to go within. But here's the other thing I know in the depth of my soul to be true is we cannot enjoy this thing called life or business alone. So you have to find that safe space, that small circle or big circle, whatever fits your vibe, that community to be yourself in. And that's what I want you to show up as. I want you to feel authentic in who you are and not be afraid to show up as that and feel safe and seen and welcomed. Sister Circle was that safe place for me when I was lonely, when I was in my rock bottom, is when I launched our membership. I needed the community and the women surrounding me just as much as they needed what I was building. And I know that's true now. I 100% believe that this collaboration over competition mindset will serve us so greatly in stepping into that next evolution, that next identity. Because oftentimes we actually have to borrow that from other people. When I was looking to expand Sister Circle, and I saw that as the vision for years, was having these chapters across the Midwest, and that is still the vision that I'm holding. But even to take those steps to be able to do that felt scary. It felt very vulnerable to actually go dream big again after doing that for a decade with my first business, and it didn't work out the way that I thought it would. So I want to actively show you how I'm doing just as much scary, uncomfortable things as I'm hopefully inspiring and pushing you to do in your own business. I'm constantly looking for ways to grow and evolve, not just in the strategy. And you guys know I love me some good strategy, but in the soul work, in the ability to hold that next identity without coming back to where I'm comfortable. We all have this set point of how much money we're comfortable with, how much visibility we're comfortable with, how much friendship we're comfortable with, how much we are just able to receive other people maybe complimenting us, or just we have this set point of all these things. And when we want to go to that next level, and we want to hold that next level, and we want that next dream, we start to rise. And then naturally that alerts our nervous system, our body. We are like in fight or flight, maybe freeze. And we can either go back to where we were, go back to what's comfortable, or we have to figure out how to regulate at this next level. That is the work that I'm currently doing for myself, and that I'm inviting you as a small business sister into. So we are bringing this work alongside the strategy and alongside the sisterhood and the fun and the community and all the cool experiences that we're creating. We need all of it. It's the best blend. It's the best balance of both worlds, soul strategy, woo work, whatever you want to call it. We need both. And for a long time, I thought that all business owners just wanted strategy. And the more I've been in the business world, the more I realize we think we want strategy, but we really want is the soul. And it's so funny because when I owned my fitness and yoga studio, everyone came to me for weight loss. They wanted to look good, feel good, but at the end of the day, they stayed for the soul and the sisterhood. And I see the same thing happening in business. People come for the strategy, tell me how to get more followers, tell me how to make more money, tell me how to automate and systematize. We'll give you that. What they stay for is the sisterhood and the soul. That's the work. The soul is the work. Strategy, you can find strategy on ChatGPT all day, but it's not going to fix or change your business until you're willing to do the inner work. You're willing to show up for yourself, for your sisters, for a community, to be vulnerable, to feel seen, to have that safety in your body and in your nervous system comes from the awareness of it. So that is just giving you a little taste of what we're going to be talking about on this podcast. And I am making a promise right now to show up, turn this mic on more, and speak from my soul. That is originally what the intent of my podcast was, and where I took you guys along my journey, my evolution. And honestly, life just lifed. And I became a mom, and I was trying to figure out how to fit this podcast into this new season. How do I want to show up? What do I want to talk about? And that's where rebranding into this, like, sisterhood is who I am at my core. I love me some community and girl time. Soul is the depth, the topics that people aren't talking about, the going there topics. And the strategy is just going to be a byproduct because I love talking strategy and I love learning what is working for me in my businesses and in my life, whether that's health, wellness, relationships, and then sharing that with other people as well. So this rebrand, although it is becoming a little bit more geared towards small business sisters and the business that and community that I've cultivated, it's still me. It's still such a large part of who I am. And that's where the intersection between sisterhood, soul, and strategy began, was just realizing that I can show up and be my full self in business. I don't need to just be strategy and I don't need to just educate. I can actually bring people into the depth of the conversations that I want to have about the soul and holding that, wrapping it all up in sisterhood. So thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy the episodes that we have planned coming up. And like I said, my promise to you is to show up authentically. I find that when I try to script out what I want to say, it just doesn't come out the way that I want. And when I try to only focus on strategy, then you don't get the depth. You don't get the soul that I really want to speak on. So this is my ask of you, is if you want a certain topic, if you want to hear more from me, tell me what you want me to talk about. Because even just you giving me ideas is going to send me down a spiral of firing off whatever is on my heart that day. And that's what I want more of these episodes to be about, is just me showing up real, raw, authentic, and being willing to say what I want to say. Thank you so much for your support of me, of this podcast, of this incredible community of small business sister circle that we are building. And I'm so excited to see where this podcast is journeying. And I invite you to come along. We have some great podcast episodes planned with incredible interviews of other small business sisters. And I will be coming on to do more solo episodes. And those might just be a little bit more sporadic. I found that I'm really good at pre-planning interview content, but I kind of want these solo episodes to literally just be what's on my mind that day and spitting some fire on what is motivating me and what is getting me inspired and what is firing me up in my life or my business. So if you found this exciting, stay tuned for more. All our new episodes will be dropping Monday mornings because that is when I want to hear inspiring podcast episode. If this episode resonated with you, will you do me a huge favor and share with a fellow small business sister or any woman who wants to hear more candid conversations that matter? And until next time, I guess this is where I sign off with my new message of keep building your business intentionally with sisterhood, soul, and strategy. And just know, sis, I'm always cheering for you. Hey, sis, if this episode spoke to you, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our weekly conversations that drop every Monday. And would you share this with a fellow sister that needs to hear this message too? If you're craving sisterhood, soul, and strategy in action, I'd love for you to step inside our Sister Circle community, where we gather, grow, and build intentional businesses together in real life and real time. I promise, business is more fun in sisterhood. Until next time, keep leading with soul, honoring your season, and don't forget, I'm always cheering for you.